Good morning. Welcome to the first meeting of the County Brant O.P.P Detachment Board for 2025. Attendance has been taken, and we will begin with the election of the chair and vice chair. Just as this meeting is being held electronically, there is no mechanism for a secret ballot if there is duplicate nominations or multiple. So if there is a tie, the selection will be done just by voting of raising the hand. So to begin, do we have any nominations for chair? Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There, I'll elect Member Haley.
Perfect. I do have written correspondence from Member Haley that they would accept the nomination. Are there any further nominations? Oh, Mayor Bailey?
I'll just make the motion to close nominations.
Perfect. Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that? Member Brown. All those in favor? And that's carried. Perfect. And then could I have also a motion to elect Member Haley as chair for the 2025 year? Moved by Councillor Pierce, seconded by Mayor Bailey. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And going to the election of vice chair, are there any nominations? Councillor Pierce?
Member Brown?
Member Brown, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, could I have a motion to close nominations and elect Member Brown as vice chair? Moved by Mayor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Perfect. With that, election of chair and vice chair closed. So with that, Vice Chair Brown, we can move on to the approval of the agenda for today.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out this morning for the first meeting in 2025. I move that we have the approval of the agenda. Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we need to do the code of confidentiality. Spencer?
Yep. So I was just going to do the code of confidentiality just before we go into camera. We can do it at the start now if you'd prefer.
It's just that I would like to know there's no one wandering around behind us.
No, absolutely then. So I will then read out the oath of confidentiality, and then afterwards I will just go through each member to confirm the oath. So to begin, I understand that this meeting is closed to the public pursuant to subsection 44.2 of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, and I hereby confirm that I am alone and will remain so for the duration of this meeting, that I have not permitted and will not permit any person to have access to this conversation or this meeting in any way. I also understand my obligation to ensure confidentiality with respect to matters discussed during this meeting pursuant to the Code of Conduct for members of the County Brant O.P.P Detachment Board. If each member could please confirm their oath. Member Brown. Thank you. Councillor Pierce.
Confirm.
Member Boudreau. And Mayor Bailey.
Noting this part of the meeting is an open meeting, I confirm.
Thank you. Perfect. And that's the oral oath of confidentiality. Thank you.
Are there any additions to the agenda for today's meeting? Hearing none, I call for a motion for the agenda to be approved. Member Boudreau, seconded by Mayor Bailey?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interests? Hearing none, we'll move on. There are no delegations this morning. The minutes of our last meeting have been distributed. Are there any errors or omissions that the board would like made to the minutes? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes as distributed. Moved by Councillor Pierce, seconded by Member Boudreau. Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to take us back to the approval of the agenda. We didn't vote on it. We can just get a quick vote just to confirm the agenda.
Thank you, you're right. For the approval of the agenda, it was moved by Spencer.
Oh, I have moved by Member Boudreau and seconded by Mayor Bailey.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
And we'll do the same with this one for the adoption of the minutes. All those in favor? Moved. Is there any business arising from the minutes of the previous, or any business arising from minutes of the previous meeting? Okay, so we will now move on to the Brant County O.P.P Detachment Commander's report. Inspector?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. I am going to present a report that includes both November and December of last year. So just being mindful, it's a 2-month period I'm reporting on. So of the data that was shared with you, I will just go through kind of high level and then also provide some additional details and hopefully some opportunities for some discussion if you like. First off is the information related to motor vehicle collisions within the county. So there was no new fatals for this reporting period. And you see your year-to-date data there, where we had 4 fatals for the year. So that is down over the last 3 years. So that certainly is a good news story. Non-fatal injuries up just over 32% for the year to date, and property damage down just over 2%. So we're really close to where we ended up last year, just 5 incidents greater than 2023. Primary causal factors were identified as speeding, alcohol, and drug related for those fatal motor vehicle collisions. So moving on to the next piece of data, you'll see for the criminal code and provincial statute charges that were laid in this reporting period, 2024, there's an additional, we laid 805 charges, up just over 81% for that reporting period. The other charges all report being down for November and December, and overall 57% increase, mostly contributed to that significant spike in Highway Traffic Act charges. Also of note, a little bit further down that page, the traffic related charges, you'll see that they delineate speeding, seatbelt impaired, and distracted driving, so often referred to as our big 4 traffic related enforcement. So year to date, overall, there's a slight decrease in all of those charges. But again, speeding was significantly higher for this reporting period, with 375 charges specific to speeding. The next page references the e-ticket warnings. So those are down both for this reporting period and year to date. Year to date down 24%. I did include, you'll see on the middle of page 11 there, the information from the traffic management unit specifically. And as we discussed at our last meeting, the traffic management unit had returned to platoon for part of November and December. So the data is, there isn't any additional charges for December, but you have your year-end totals there. Part 1 charges just over 700, and Part 3 over 200, and as well as some criminal code charges. I will just point out that last year there were no Part 3 and no criminal charges laid with our traffic management unit. So while we discussed that early in the year, different officers bring a different skill set, and Part 3 charges are the often more serious highway traffic act violations that require a person to attend court, or it might be a suspend drive or things of that nature. So while we don't have as many speeding charges necessarily, I think it's still a win that we got some of our violators off the highway with Part 3 charges as well. Violent crime, moving on to that data. There were 3 sexual assaults reported during this reporting period. No change from past years for that. And assaults or firearm related offenses, were down from 19 to 11 for this reporting period. Overall, violent crime is down just over 2.5% for 2024. In terms of our property crime, just referencing here, break and enters were down just over 5%. It's showing a decrease in nearly all of the property related crime for this reporting period, as well as year to date, just over 23%. At this time, I also just wanted to reference for you our community street crime unit. We did get some year-end data just to show specifically how our community street crime unit is doing. So in comparison to the 3 other detachments within our syndicate, our Brant community street crime unit is leading in a number of things. I'll just highlight some of those for you. Our unit was involved with 90 occurrences. That compares to a range of 31 to 73 with the other units. So certainly leading the way on the amount of occurrences they're involved in, and executing 178 warrants. So that again is considerably higher than the other teams in the area. They had 68 persons charged, laying 274 charges. So great work on behalf of our community street crime unit. Jason, Staff Sergeant McTaggart and I are really proud of the contributions they've made in our community. And certainly they've been busy because 178 warrants is quite a few. So I just wanted to highlight that for you. Moving on to drug crime, we have noted there's 4 incidents of trafficking. So while it shows a 300% increase, it's up to 4 from 1. So there's just 3 additional occurrences there. And year to date, this is down drug crime just over 54%. Other criminal occurrences on page 15. So that is down just over 19% year to date, and over 10.5 year to date, 19 for this reporting period. Our clearance rate, so that breaks down the violent crime, property crime, other offenses, drugs, federal statutes, provincial statutes, and driving offenses. So it shows what our clearance rate is. So the times that we lay charges, identify accused persons. So for 2024, this new report reflects what our clearance rates are without reading all the numbers to you. It's hopefully helpful to see how often officers are identifying and clearing off occurrences that are reported to us. The next piece of data is about unfounded occurrences. So unfounded means it didn't actually happen but was reported to us. So for the November-December reporting period, there were 12 occurrences that were reported to us that we determined didn't actually occur. So year to date, that is down just over 6%. Public complaints year to date, there's 6 public complaints reported, and while that's up 20%, it's a difference of 1 from last year. The daily activity reporting, so this was the subject of some discussion last meeting. You'll see the breakdown in the patrol hours for November and December that are there for you, all broken down. So that may be something worth discussing later on. Youth charges, there's 1 charge reported there, and it was handled by way of diversion. And in terms of the year-to-date, it was at 25. This was the subject of some discussion at last meeting. Member Brown had inquired about 23 charges involving the youth. And after doing some research, I can report that most of the charges, 20 of them, came from a number of ATV incidents that had happened last July involving a number of youth. And while we weren't meeting at that time as a board, that's where the occurrences came from. An officer had dealt with a number of youth that were operating ATVs that generated a number of provincial offense charges. So that's what that was specifically. So, and then on page 20, reference to mental health involved incidents. So for 2024, for November, December, the reporting period, we're up just slightly from the previous years. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for mental health incidents to be higher at that time of year. Year to date, we are showing a decrease in mental health related calls. For November, I can tell you that there were 11 apprehensions, 7 were admitted to hospital. For December, there were 4 apprehensions and 4 were admitted to hospital. In terms of the time we're spending in the ER, in November, we spent just over 23 and a half hours times 2, so 47 hours in the hospital. The mean time spent in the emerge was just over 2 hours. And then for December, the total time spent in the emerge was just over 21 hours. And the mean time was just over 2.5 hours for our mental health. There were no overdose incidents in our county last year. Our referrals to victim services, you can see that officers are making the referrals, but the percentage of times that people accept victim service referrals is low comparatively. So we did address this recently at a sergeant meeting to ensure that everyone understands all the services that are available, and had our victim services team present to our detachment sergeants to ensure, as I said, an awareness of all the great services that our victim services are able to provide. So by way of the actual data, that is it, but I have some additional updates to provide to you. In terms of staffing, during the month of November, probationary constable Sarah Savelli began with us in Brant. So she finished her training at both O.P.P and the Provincial Police Academy, and she's being coached by Provincial Constable Lowe. During the month of December, Detective Constable Ricky Attic left Brant after successfully competing for a promotion to a detective sergeant with the coordination unit. Also, during December, PC Craig McMurtry left Brant after he successfully competed for a detective constable position with our Organized Crime Enforcement Bureau. Cadet Luna De Jong began work with us in December, so we have 2 cadets working with us now. In terms of our community services media officer, So in November, released just over 133 reports to the public through our news portals, our various news portals, providing updates on a variety of community events and engagement activities, as well as public engagement activities that were going on throughout the county. We were involved in the Winter Wonderland Toy Drive, the Remembrance Day activities, the festive ride kickoff, and events with the Paris High School. As well, during December, there were approximately 98 releases to our various news portals. And again, reporting on a variety of community events and our engagement throughout that. Crime Stoppers tips, year to date, 63. Comparatively, Brantford Police had 373 and Six Nations 34. Also, in terms of staffing, I just wanted to share with you our auxiliary unit. While we have a capacity of 15, we are currently at 7 active members. We are always recruiting for our auxiliary team, so I share that in the interest of generating some more discussion about future members, and also to share the year-to-date contributions our auxiliary team made to the county. They contributed 1,643 hours. And just a reminder, they are volunteer members, so certainly that is a great contribution to the community, contributing just over 400 hours of service in December alone, in that last quarter alone. So just wanted to highlight that about our auxiliary unit as well. So barring any questions, that is my report for this reporting period.
Thank you, Inspector Quindle. That was a lot of good information, and we'll move on to Councillor Pierce for questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Yeah, I like the format of this new report with the information it gives. Okay, so I got a few here, so I'm just going to kind of run through them. 1 second, I just got to get to the right page. The first one, so for the traffic management unit, I know they were deactivated in November, December, but they are back in action now, correct?
That is correct, member.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So that's good. Then we're going to scroll down to the page for, hang on, where'd it go? My apologies. Scroll. It was for the traffic. I just got to find the page. My apologies. When I talked about traffic and the with speeding, the number, the traffic lane charges up 63%, 375 for speeding. Do I take that as, and I've always noted the fact that our police officers have discretion depending on what the situation is on any traffic stop and that sort of thing. But do I take it, or can we take it from this that potentially there's more fines now than warnings, or do we think that the discretion of the officers with the warnings is still the same? It's just the fact that people went a little nutty at the end of the year.
That's difficult to say because there's so many variables that would impact that, and even just what members might have been working more or less during, because some people like to do traffic enforcement more than others. So I couldn't say for sure if there was any direct correlation to that for you. I'd have to do a bunch of digging. I'm not sure if I could even determine that. It would be very person-centered as to whether they'd use discretion or not, or whether the speeding was just that egregious that they didn't give any warnings.
Okay, and that's fair. I can appreciate that. So if we look at the overall, if we look at from 2022, there was a big drop in things to 2023, and now it seems to go back up in 2024. Is there anything that's jumping out as to rationale as to why the dip than the increase, or do we think that where we are now is just more or less leveling out of where unfortunately things are?
I think there's a number of factors to consider there as well. I think there's been personnel, I think, largely contributes to that, and we went through a period where we had a lot of young officers that were in training and learning. Certainly, they have more experience now. They're on their own, finding their way. And like I said, a lot of people do like to do traffic enforcement. And so I think that that's a lot of it. But to your point, I think there also is a leveling out and an understanding of expectations that Staff Sergeant McTaggart and I have shared with the detachment. And the service delivery model that I think we've touched on before is about ensuring that that the officers are spending their days conducting some type of enforcement when they're not otherwise occupied with calls for service. So I think the clear expectations and understanding and officers following through with that, I think, is what we're seeing.
That's good, because as I've stated before, and as a rule, as far as counselors are concerned, still the biggest notifications we get, the biggest complaints we get from constituents are speeding, and there's just unsafe drivers and stuff like that. And I advise them, and most of them understand the fact that appreciate the fact that you had speeding in front of your house, but unfortunately the officers can't be everywhere all the time. And if they happen to be at your or any location as somebody is speeding in that location, then they take action on it. But it's obviously as simple as it sounds. It's impossible for them to catch a speeder on Grand River Street North if they're up unrested. That only makes logical sense. But of course, everybody's complaint is they're speeding in their areas. So I think we're kind of it's getting better as a community to understand that they understand that the police can't be everywhere at every time, and with a lot of the things we're putting in through Brant Safe Streets for slowing traffic down and that sort of stuff is absolutely helping. So that's good on that. So one last question I have: if we go to the daily activity report, and I'm not using this as a complaint at all, I think it's great. But if we look at 2024 cruiser hours compared to 2023 hours, we're about 500 hours up, which is, what would that be, like 20 days, 21 days of extra, or sorry, I'll put it as additional patrol cruiser hours in 2024. I think that's great, but I'm just trying to understand where we came up with an extra 500 hours.
Yeah, through you, Member Brown. I guess the other part that I can reference there is tying back to what I mentioned earlier about younger officers. I think there's a data integrity piece as well, like as people learn how to do it, but also our staffing is doing quite well right now. So that I think that certainly contributes to that without getting into the numbers live right now. Mm-hmm. So I think that is also playing a part in that.
All right, that's like I say, that's a good news story, and that's the kind of information that I, as a counselor, put out to the constituents, is the fact that they're out and about. Like this is the facts right here. These are the numbers. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other questions for the inspector? I've got a few comments that I would like to make, and I like Councillor Pierce, I really like the new format and the information that's there. When you go through it, I think it's a good news report. You can pull out a lot of good things from this. Our reportable offenses are down, i.e. break-ins, and many of the things I have to have a look at it, and the same thing stuck out to me. We're up over 20.5% in patrol hours, which I think is huge, the visibility and whatnot. And I wonder if that contributes to the amount of the fact that a number of the statistics are being pushed down in reportable offenses or otherwise. I think it's a great job. I'm amazed that we have no drug fatalities, that's a stat that's trending down. I'm not sure what that is, but it seems to be going province-wide, which is a good thing. I'd like you to, if you could, on our behalf from the board, welcome all the new members to the Detachment Board and pass on our appreciation for those who have left for the service that they've done for us over the past few years. I'd really like you to thank the auxiliaries for all their involvement, the time that they put into our community. There's a lot that goes unnoticed that we would sorely miss if they weren't there, and hopefully we will get some new applicants for recruits in the future.
Thank you.
Any other? You're most welcome. It's well deserved. Any other comments, Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and just something that you said there brought it to my mind in regards to the auxiliary, and as the inspector said, that is, that's volunteer. They're not getting paid for that. That's volunteer. And when we look at volunteers across the board in a lot of aspects of life, volunteerism is down. So it's nice to see folks still wanting to get involved, especially something as important as an auxiliary police, because we know what they do and they know that they're around. So absolutely, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Bailey.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to the inspector. Did we ever give people like Edith and Shirley anything to thank them on paper? We took them out for lunch. The county took them out for lunch, all of the different committees. But did we ever send them anything?
So, through you, Chair, Cindy is having conversations with the chair to decide on a process. So nothing has happened to date.
I just thought we could roll it into maybe one certificate with the chair, Haley, myself, and you on one certificate from the mayor, the chair, and the inspector. We could do all of that. If you decide that's what you want to do, I think it'd be nice to have all three of our names on one certificate instead of three different certificates representing the county, the police service board, and your detachment. Just putting it out there, Cindy. And if we're not going to do anything, that's fine too, but just a suggestion.
Thank you.
We'll pass that on to Chair Haley because I know she's already looking into something, so I don't know what she has in mind. So we'll make note of that and give that to Chair Haley. Inspector?
One other item, if I could add, it doesn't really fit necessarily within the context of my report, but just wanted to share, knowing that Chair Haley's not here, this past week I had an opportunity to meet with our two new members, Member Boudreau and Member Stryker, just to provide an onboarding of sorts. So I just wanted to share that because I think it was time well spent. We spent the afternoon together, and Chair Haley was with us as well, and just to provide some background and understanding. So I think it will serve our board well, and it was a great opportunity to get to know our two new members.
Thank you. Chair Haley expressed what a good meeting it was, and it was something that we wish we had ahead at the time when we first came in. So I think it's a great thing that you've done for our new members to help get them up to speed a little bit faster. I'm sure we'll benefit from that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the, sorry.
Move to receive the report, Mr. Chair.
Yes, can we have a motion to receive the report? By Councillor Pierce, seconded by Mayor Bailey. All those in favor? So that motion carried. Our next item on the agenda is a report by Cindy Stevenson on false alarm statistics.
Thank you and good morning. This report is our typical report and provides statistics on false alarm response by the O.P.P. Back to January 2023 up to November 2024. As noted in the report, there has been an increase in responses year over year in comparison to 2023. Which results in a 13.5% increase year to date. The other trend that we've previously identified is an increase in repeat responses and false alarm fees charged to specific properties. And there is a chart there that identifies those 5 properties and the number of responses year to date, with one that has had, to the end of November, 10 responses. Since the previous meeting, county staff as well as O.P.P staff have partnered to discuss an enhanced mitigation strategy, and staff work together to develop a communications plan, which has a two-pronged approach. One is to focus on public education, and that can be done through a variety of methods, through outreach, direct communication, social media campaigns, media releases, etc. And the other is to look at individual repeat properties. So in addition to our current escalating fines and warning letters, provide property owners with educational resources, as well as an on-site visit from O.P.P and county staff for their 3rd and 5th responses. I did circulate to the members this morning just the draft tip sheet that staff have worked on, and based a lot of the information on a resource that the Hamilton Police Service utilizes, and we just received their permission to do that. So we do appreciate that from the Hamilton Police Service. And then lastly, staff are doing a jurisdictional scan right now, specifically to look at if there are any communities that have any enhanced enforcement tactics or strategies for those repeat offenders, for lack of a better term, for response to false alarms. And if we do find anything helpful there, we'll bring that back to the board as well. And that concludes my overview.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That concludes my overview of the report.
Thanks, Cindy. That is a very well done, comprehensive report. Before I comment, I'll go to Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So a couple things, yeah. It's unfortunate that we keep getting these repeat offenders, but to your point with the what are you calling it there? The false alarm prevention tips. Kudos to Hamilton there for allowing us to kind of take some of their ideas and not having to reinvent the wheel here. But I like the statement you made, Cindy, in regards to your two-pronged suggestion here to try and combat this, one of them being public education. Because when you look at the tip sheet there, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially six of those 12 are, in my mind, education. It doesn't know how to run the system, doesn't know the phone number, doesn't know the password, that sort of thing. So I think it's great that we're trying to get some sort of education out there. And I was very happy to see that, we're not just going to do it through our social media channels and stuff like that, which is great, don't get me wrong, but we're actually going to visit these repeat offenders to say, a couple things. And I'm sure part of it will be, hey, let us help you educate your staff type thing. And here is the tip sheet and that sort of thing. Because, I guess there's those out there that just don't really care and they'll pay the fine, whatever. But I'm only assuming that, most businesses are in business to make money, not to give out money. So if there's any way that we can help them prevent this, which A, saves them money, but B, more importantly, saves an officer or whomever having to go somewhere for a false alarm, which potentially there could be other things happening in the county. I think this is a great initiative, and I'd like to thank Cindy, yourself, Cindy, and I know before you, Heather. We've come a long way on these false alarms over the last couple of years in trying to combat them. and I think we're definitely heading in the right track. When it comes to the point where most of our offenses are these repeat offenders, I think that to me says the fact that, you know, the education is kind of out there. We just need to push it a little more. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this direction to educate the most of the best we can. So thank you for this, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Are there any other comments? Cindy, I'd like to pass on my thanks for the work that you have done. I think it's great. You've identified 2 streams that I think will have further impact. The focus on the offenders, and then specifically the changing the reset to every 2 years after the last false alarm. I think that'll definitely hit them in the pocketbook, not having it reset to 0 every year. So I'm interested to see where this goes in the future and how effective it is.
Thank you. I'd just like to give kudos to some staff that Inspector Quinville and I were working with, but they did most of the work and putting this together. Taylor and Kathy, they've done a great job.
Well, definitely our thanks goes out to all of the O.P.P personnel and Brant County personnel who have contributed to this. Okay, no other comments? Can I have a motion to receive this as information? Member Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Pierce. All in favor? Carried. The next item on the agenda is communications, and we've had 3 in the recent term. Ontario Association of Ontario Association of Police Services Board, the January update, the important industry communications, and the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 training documents. Do we have any comments or questions on any of those pieces of correspondence? Spencer?
Through the chair, I just quickly wanted to touch back on the report. There is a recommendation within the report to receive as information, as well as and that the progressive communications plan to address repeat false alarms is approved for implementation in 2025. I just wanted to note that was the staff recommendation.
Yep. That's for the false alarms, right?
That's correct, yes.
Do we need to redo that then, Spencer, or are you just adding that in?
If we could just go through that vote just in addition to receiving as information, just to make sure it's captured correctly.
Mayor Bailey?
I'll make the motion. Seeking a seconder.
Member Boudreau? Hey, you've heard the updated motion. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Spencer. If we can move back into communications then, are there any comments? Councillor Pierce?
Move to receive all 3 as information, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a seconder? Member Boudreau? All in favor? Carried. Updates. Councillor Pierce, are there any updates from council?
Not a lot, Mr. Chair. Just like I say, it's the same old the complaints that we get are for speeding and that sort of thing in the county. And the word that we're putting out there is exactly as I said earlier: the fact that and the numbers here will go back to them in the sense of patrol hours and stuff are out. The police can't be everywhere all the time, and the numbers are exactly what they are. We're up in the number of speeding charges, so that to me says that it's there may be more speeders, but they're being caught and that sort of thing, and the police are doing everything they can to combat it. So other than that, I think for the most part, people are pretty happy, as far as I've heard, anyway, which is always good.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions for the councillor? Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Pierce. We appreciate that. The next item was Zone 4. Chair Haley is not here today, so we'll put that off until next month. And that puts us at the time when we need to move into Cameron. Spencer? Oh, hold on. Mayor Barely?
I was just going to make the motion to take us into camera.
Okay. Seconded? Councillor Pierce?
Sorry to
Spencer?
through the chair, I do have I can read out specific wording for the motion to go in camera, just to state what we are going in camera for. That the County of Brant O.P.P Detachment Board convene in camera to discuss Section 44.2G, information explicitly supplied in confidence to the board by Canada, a province or territory, or a Crown agency of any of them, response time discussion.
And that was moved by Mayor Bailey and seconded by Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? Carried. We will be moving it to camera.
Yep, we're back in open. We're back in open session.
Thank you, Spencer. Welcome back, everyone. We've had our in-camera meeting. That'll be recorded appropriately. Is there anything further from any of the councillors that they need to bring up at this time? Okay, our next regular meeting is scheduled for February 25th, 2025, the County of Brant Chambers at 9 a.m. Do I need a motion to conclude at this point?
You can make it yourself.
So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So be it. Councillor Pierce, I'll be the one tonight at the meeting with the